This is the Mandala Drum version 3 by Synesthesia. This is from last year's production run, and they've just entered a second round of production, and I believe they're shipping in August, so you can order one now. It's a really incredible percussive MIDI controller. It has 4 separate note zones on the pad itself and 9 rim triggers, each capable of sending a separate MIDI note. But what makes this MIDI controller especially unique is the modulation features, which include pressure modulation and slide modulation. The rims also have the pressure modulation feature. So as you squeeze them, you can modulate effects. I have it set up with an Ableton drift synth, and I've just used the oscillator shape function, assigned it to the slide. So if you watch me slide on the Mandala pad, you'll see the waveform shape at the bottom of the drift synth here change. And then the pressure is assigned to the high pass filter, so you hear the bottom end of the sound kind of drop out as the harder I squeeze on those rims or on the pad. So all these modulation features are pretty incredible and very unique to the Mandala Drum. The only slight issue is the way that the Mandala itself handles the pressure and slide modulation. Now, straight out of the box, the Mandala is sending pressure and slide data every time you hit it. So this is how it sounded when I first connected it to Ableton Live. So if I tap the center zone, and I'm going to go from soft to loud, you can hear that just the velocity of my strokes is actually sending a variety of pressure values, which are then in turn modulating that filter. This is not what I would want the drum to do. I would want to be able to play the drum normally without sending any pressure data, and only send pressure data when I push into the drum, like this. So the same issue happens with the slide data. Straight out of the box, the Mandala sends slide values as you play across the drum. So even if I just play single strokes, you can start to hear the modulation happening as I move to the edge of the drum. What we really want is the slide modulation to only happen when I push across the drum or slide across the drum with the stick. I'm not sure why the Mandala has been designed this way. In a device like the Ableton Push, they've built it so that when you use MPE modulation or aftertouch, there's a slight delay, so a short note won't cause any modulation, but a longer push will start to send the MPE modulation values. This is how we would really want the Mandala to work as well. And so I've built a custom Ableton rack that gives you much more control over these features. I'm going to turn this on down here. Now I've built in a few presets here, so we can turn pressure and slide data off completely. So this way, if I push into the drum, there's no modulation at all, no slide modulation either. If we use this if we use the second preset rather, here, turn the pressure modulation on. That brings that pressure modulation feature back in, but still no slide feature. We can turn just the slide modulation on, but no pressure modulation, or we can turn both of these on. And you can have a little bit more customization control over all these features. So the pressure delay here, that is how long you need to sustain the note before the pressure modulation takes effect. So if I increase that value, You can hear a slight delay. The higher the value, the longer it takes for the pressure modulation to come into effect. We also have pressure thresholds, so the higher the threshold value, the harder you'll have to push into the drum to get the modulation. I'm having to push down a lot more there. If you set it at the top value, you'll get no modulation at all. We also have pressure curve, so at higher values, the pressure modulation effect will come in more quickly or have a higher value. So I don't have to push as hard here before it starts really affecting that high pass filter. The lower values you'll have to kind of push harder before it reaches those higher values. Same kind of controls for the slide effect, slide delay. Again, how long do you have to hold the note before the slide comes into effect? The slide threshold will mean how far across the drum do you need to move before the slide modulation comes into effect. So if I have it set low, it's going to come into effect right away. If I set it a little bit higher, you can hear that the slide modulation is only really happening in the upper half of the mandala as I move to the outer zones. If I set it even higher, the modulation is only coming into effect at the very edge of the drum. Again, we have a slide curve that will just kind of tweak how responsive the slide modulation is. So this gives you so much more control over these modulation features. So if you're an Ableton Live user, I just think this is kind of indispensable. It's set up for MPE only just now. But this gives you access to slide and pressure features of all the built-in native synths, etc. Here we have like the modulation pressure is assigned to high pass frequency, and like I said, the slide feature here is assigned to shape. But you could flip those if you want. You could set the shape to be pressure, and you could set the slide to be the filter frequency. So endless possibilities. So these devices are available on my Gumroad account, details in the description. I've created a full manual for both these devices, which is included with the download. If there's anything you feel I've missed from these devices or any suggestions for future devices, please leave those in the comments or send me a DM. I'd be happy to hear from anyone. And I hope to be releasing more presets and other custom Ableton racks in the future. So please make sure to follow me, like and subscribe, etc. Thanks for watching.